Hi, I'm Lydia from Living Options Devon.
And I'm Becki from Living Options Devon.
And Living Options Devon is a user-led disability charity based in the Southwest. And it's Scoliosis Awareness Day on the 26th of June, and we really wanted to raise awareness. And two of our colleagues have the condition scoliosis, so we thought we'd have a bit of a conversation with them today and ask some questions about what scoliosis means to them. So we've got Heather, hi Heather, who's our Deputy CEO at Living Options, and Sue, who is our hub host. So from my research on scoliosis, I know that it is when the spine curves, and it can twist to the side, and it can also pull in your rib cage. There's lots of different types of scoliosis, but what does scoliosis mean to you, Heather?
Well, for me, I think I'd never met anyone with scoliosis until I started working with Sue, and that was back in 2014. And just from me and Sue talking and sharing experiences, I've realised how different it can be for different people. It really is. I mean, Sue and I have had quite different experiences, and I'm sure that's true of a lot of other people out there. So for me, scoliosis for me has been something that I live with, and it actually doesn't bother me every day. It's more like every week I will have back pain, but it's only because I've undergone treatment that I'm able to live a bit more freer and not experience so much pain as I was previously. So for me, it's been, you know, a bit of a journey, and it's kind of something that I only started experiencing when I was 9. So it's since then, you know, it's just progressed, and you know, I think it does change the way that your body looks as well. Like, you know, I think you said, you know, your rib cage, it sticks out, and different parts of as you're growing up, you know, you can tell you're standing differently, and you know, when you're as a child and then as a young teenager, you feel different and you look different. So but now I think I don't even think about it that much, to be honest, anymore. It's just part of me, and I don't, like I say, it doesn't affect me every day. It's just something that I learned to manage, and when I do get pain, I just try and deal with it as I can.
And Sue, how about you?
Yeah, I've had scoliosis. I think I started having it when I was 10, and for me, I thought it was because of the way I sat on a chair, because I never sat right back in a chair, and then all of a sudden my spine started curving, and I mean, I wasn't conscious of it at the time, but as I've got older, I have got conscious, because a lot of people do comment on because I lean on one side to the other, but I mean, I've got used to that now, and I've tried to get supports for my wheelchair. So now I've got supports that will keep my back straight. And then for me, yes, I'm like Heather, I do get the pains, and it can be a bit excruciating. And to remedy that, I ended up getting myself a memory foam bed. The only thing with that, as soon as you get on the memory bed cushion, you can't move. So I'm sort of static in one position.
Do you have things that go in your wheelchair, Sue, that help you stay a bit more upright then?
Yeah, I've got
like a back support or something.
But I've got back support for my wheelchair, yeah. Like a little, but it's only on one side.
Right.
Yeah, so it's more on the right hand side.
Yeah.
So it's my, yeah. And okay, to get over, well, don't know what else to say, sorry.
Well, you can walk, can't you, Sue? You can walk short distances, can you?
I can walk a little bit, but I try not to. But because of the scoliosis, obviously it's affected my legs. So I've got one leg shorter than the other. So if I am walking, my feet are dragging, and I have to have specially made boots. But I've tried to avoid that, because the boots they provide, they weren't very stylish then. They may have changed things now.
Yeah. And can you have operations? Can you have treatment to sort of help with that curvature of the spine, or does it depend on sort of what type of scoliosis that you've got?
Well, I did have years ago, I was one of the candidates for the Harrington rod operation. And that is really interesting.
Can you explain what the Harrington rod operation is?
Well, what was after my operation, I was put on something that looked like a stretcher, and it's 2 pieces, and there's a hole for your bottom, and they screw it down, so they I'm like a human rotisserie.
Yeah. I think you said to me, Sue, that you were like placed kind of almost strapped down, weren't you? Was it for like, it was quite a long time, wasn't it?
6 months.
6 months, and then they rotated her so she didn't get bed sores.
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it, Sue?
Yeah.
And the idea was to kind of, because this was quite a few years ago we're talking about, aren't we, Sue? The idea was to like stretch the person to make the spine stretch and straighten. And in reality, that did not work at all, did it, Sue?
No. But I mean, because the upshot of it as well, I had weights as well. So on my legs, I've still got the markings where and then on my head as well, like I had a crown, and I had weights attached. Yeah.
Was that in London, Sue?
Yes. Yeah.
That sounds a bit like I'm only again going on just sort of my own sort of knowledge that isn't isn't amazing, but it sounds a bit like when if you have a spinal injury, they put the weights on, don't they, to try and if you break your neck or your back, to try and straighten out your spine. And that sounds like they've sort of done that approach on something that wasn't going to work, was it?
No. But those years ago, there were other people that had scoliosis, because I went to special school, and I think quite a few of my friends had it. But then there were some that were issued a brace to wear. The only thing with a brace, it was like a corset, so it kind of restricted you. So all the clothes you got had to be a lot bigger size. And I never had a brace. So, yeah.
I had one. I had well, I think we probably I was around 9 and Sue was around 10, so similar age, because it often comes out in younger people, teenagers kind of thing. So I had years of like physio and chiropractic therapy to try and help, and nothing helped really, and it got to the point where I couldn't walk, and my mum was banging down the door saying this isn't working. And a bit like Sue, they thought I had one leg shorter than the other, so they put a little insole step into my shoes, and it just didn't do anything. And then we went and had an appointment in London, and then I had my operation 6 weeks later, and that was a metal rod. It's a spinal fusion, so they take part of the bone from my rib, and they fuse part of your spine together, and then they put a metal rod with screws in to straighten out the part of your spine that's bent. And then after that, I was in hospital for I think about 2 weeks, and then I had a back brace for a year after that, and that was actually, the back brace was the worst part of it all. So I was 13. I had a brace that goes from your hip right up to here, so you can't move anything. It was very restricting. You had to wear it for 23 hours a day. And as a 13-year-old, I had to basically just dress in boys' clothes, because I couldn't wear nice skinny jeans or anything. I couldn't wear anything fashionable. I had to wear big t-shirts and wear my brother's school uniform just so it would fit over the brace and stuff. It was just,
Was the brace, did the brace cause any kind of pain or anything, Heather?
Yeah, it was really painful on my hips, and it was really painful on my hips because it's like a plastic thing, and it just sits it just sat on my hips the whole time. And you were a young, girl going through puberty and that, so loads of things your body's changing and stuff, so to wear it for a year, your body can change quite a lot in that time anyway. So I really hated the brace. I found it the worst part of it all. but then, you know, it did the job. So so it was worth it. But you know, some people have to wear, they don't get operations, they have to just wear the brace for like 3 years plus, and that helps. So
would that have the same outcome as if you were to have the operation and just wearing the brace for a year? If would the wearing the brace for a year for 3 years have the same outcome? Like would,
they
or
would
would it?
only, well, potentially, yeah, but they
Yeah.
only offer surgery to people, to like the cases where it's more severe. So
Right.
not even everybody with scoliosis has to have any kind of treatment. They can just live with it. Because it can be very, very mild, and that's you know, great, because you might notice a slight curve, but if it's not affecting you and you're not having back pain, and you know, you're able to live your day-to-day life, then you don't need treatment. It's you know, with Sue and I, it's like you say, that excruciating for me. It was like lower back pain, and I just couldn't walk at times, and I think, you know, that's probably a more severe. I had a S-shaped curve, so I have 2 curves, because when one curve, then the other tries to compensate. So yeah, it's it would, you know, my spine isn't straight even now, but it's a lot better than it was. So yeah, the treatment did work.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you don't even notice, Heather, that you've.
No.
I didn't know. Yeah.
No. Yeah. No. Well, yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think
touch your toes.
Yeah, touch my toes. No, I've got no flexibility at all, unfortunately. But yeah, I think like my close friends and family would probably know, because they'll hear me complaining about my back sometimes. But that's it, really. So
I think you've touched on a lot of our questions, actually, that we were going to sort of banter between the two each other. No, it's brilliant, because that's ahead. Is there anything that helps you manage your scoliosis from day to day? Is there any sort of tips that you could give somebody else that's, you know, something that really works for you, that helps you perhaps with that back pain that you were talking about? Sue, have you got anything that you think helps you with your scoliosis?
I mean, I must admit, I do like my dancing, so every morning I have my little workout. Yeah, dance some music, and since I was looking at that DVD that we've done, that's really helpful. Yeah,
the Living Options 7 accessible DVD. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's part of my regime now. In the mornings, listen to that. Yeah, and do a bit of moving. Yeah. And then if the weather's nice, I do go outside, just to sort of get my momentum as well. Because if I stay in one position, I do end up getting a lot of back pain. Yeah. And it's quite funny as well, because I've had office chairs in the past, and they've had to specially mold them for me, and people say, "Oh, that looks a really nice chair." They sit on it, then they have to get up in it immediately because it's designed for my back. Yeah. I mean, I for myself, I only had the rod, but then I was in that position for 6 months, so I never had a brace. And then I just find, you know, I'm just so pleased now they make bras that you can button at the front, because I hate all that.
It's the little things in life, isn't it, Sue?
Yeah.
And how about you, Heather? Is there anything that, you know, sort of really helps you combat any pain, or helps you in your day-to-day with it?
I think for me, a bit like Sue, like exercise helps. I mean, I often do not feel like exercising if I've got back pain, but it's probably the best thing for it, because like Sue said, if you're sat down for too long or you stood up for too long, it just gets quite painful. And you know, I think I would really benefit from something like trying to do yoga or something, you know, something where you're a bit more stretching. It's just not my bag, really. But that's something, I know I've not got the patience, but something like physical exercise I think is good for it, even if you don't feel like it. I think we, you know, and so I think for Sue as well, one of the things she's forgetting to say is she's always got such a positive outlook on it. You've never, you know, despite, you know, everything, you've always got a smile on your face, even if you're back setting, or, you know, there's times when you've been trying to get the right treatment for yourself, even all these years on, and you know, the positive outlook is really something that you've always carried.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I find because of my condition, my scoliosis, because it's so predominant. If that's one of the reasons why when I got married, I did want a child, but I couldn't, because I know from the moment I fell, I'd have been in hospital. Now, I don't want to be in hospital for 9 months.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely other things to consider, like starting a family and all of that. And where, you know, I've got a 2.5-year-old, and actually that is wreaking havoc on my back, lumping him around all the time because he's like a dead weight. But I'm playing rough with him, you know, all of that. But, you know, it's livable. So
When you were actually pregnant, Heather, did it cause havoc with your back then as well?
well, I was really worried because, to be honest, I take ibuprofen for back pain, and when you're pregnant, you can't take it. And when I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? And actually, I didn't have any back pain.
Really?
Which people who have
suits you then.
Oh,
Yeah.
hold on.
Be like an elephant, be pregnant for a long time.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have any back pain. I was really surprised. Yeah, but it started as soon as it came out. It started straight again. So.
How strange.
Oh, I think it's maybe just the way that they're laying on your nerves and stuff. It didn't bother me. So I was quite lucky.
Very lucky.
And I think, well, like what Heather says, you know, we've just sort of got on with it, and I haven't not really let it affect anything I do. If okay, I may have to do it a different way, but I still try to have a go at doing things, you know. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, just to add one last thing, like, don't let it hold you back, because there's loads of people that live with scoliosis. Like, it's not uncommon amongst young teenage girls, and you know, Usain Bolt's got scoliosis.
No way.
Yeah. There's lots of Princess Eugenie as well. Like, lots of people have scoliosis.
Yeah, I only learned that because, well, on her wedding, she had a really beautiful dress, didn't she, that kind of showed her scar off, which I thought was positive.
Yeah.
I mean, if for me, I wouldn't mind getting my skull, have a tattoo put on there, but I don't like tattoos, so.
Could have a Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Becki just wants to ask the last question to sort of
well, if you have any words of advice for anyone with the same condition, and how they can manage it throughout their lives, and some of your wisdom to share with the world. Go on, Sue.
I'd say don't let that stop you. You know, do what, you know, if there's something you want to do, go for it. I mean, you may have to adapt the way you do it, but please don't give up. Yeah, be positive. Yeah, I'd
agree. And I think as well, like Sue's touched on about, you know, the workplace and making reasonable adjustments and all of that, you know, not something that I have to think about for me, but, you know, in an organisation like ours, we have lots of people with various disabilities and things that we need to take into account. So, like for Sue talking about her chair, you know, make sure that nobody, you know, that if you've got something that you need, you're talking to your employer and making sure that things are accessible for you, and making sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. Because, you know, I think for both Sue and I, it's not like a constant pain. It's something that can just flare up because you've been sat down too long or stood up too long. And I think just about making people aware of, you know, what access requirements you have and what you need to be able to, you know, live your life easier. And then, as Sue says, keep positive, definitely.
I think that's a big tip for this whole thing, isn't it? Is just to keep smiling and remain positive throughout. Because I think that can be that can speak volumes for any. Yeah.
And there's some massive support out there as well. I mean, in our research, we've discovered the Scoliosis Association in the UK, and we'll put their website in the feed for this as well, so people can go over there, and they've got tons of information, and I've been in contact with them, and they seem really supportive and great. So thank you both so much for sharing that. I've learned so much.
Yes, I have.
I didn't know anything about it.
Just sorry, one thing I forgot to say, there is actually a Facebook group that's Sue and I are members of. There's a Facebook there's lots of Facebook groups that you can, which is a good way of sharing stories and asking for advice, especially I think for parents of you know, where their kids are going through it and they're not sure what to say. So yeah, go to that website, go to Facebook and have a little search, and there's lots of things out there to support people. So
Brilliant. Great. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
bye.
Yeah, bye.